They get the guy that they wanted in Rocky McIntosh. And the Cleveland Browns, we had a run on linebackers. First 3 picks in round 2, linebackers with the D'Amico Ryans, the Houston. Cleveland trading up to get Dequell Jackson, a kid right in my backyard at the Maryland Terrapin program. Did a heck of a job. We talked about linebackers that have been productive. Number 52, I thought, compared very favorably to Jonathan Vilma, former early first-round pick for the New York Jets. Now, here's a guy who can cover, instinctive football player, excellent tackler with a number of games where he had 10-plus tackles, was around 15, 16 tackles in certain games as well. And I thought for a kid who had the ability to play in a couple different systems, you could say middle linebacker, you could play him on the outside. Now he goes to a 3-4 scheme. It'll be interesting to see how they work him in, Romeo Crennel does, to this Cleveland Browns linebacking situation.
He's a good player.
Oh, Chris, production-wise, Abdul Hodge is another linebacker out of Iowa, was equally as productive, and Abdul Hodge figures to go in round 2 as well out of the Iowa Hawkeye program.
Romeo Crennel made his bones on versatility of his linebackers in New England, and that's what Dequell will give him. It's the versatility from inside to outside, that ability to do more than one thing. That's what you're looking for if you're the Cleveland Browns.
He's a Jackson.
Well, he's my 4th cousin.
The trade that we had, the Packers and New England, the Chad Jackson trade, here it is. And the Patriots, they have more picks going into today than anybody else, so you can start moving. That's what you do. You move them around. And so New England moved up, and then Green Bay will go down and take New England selection, 52nd overall, and pick up a 3rd, one of New England's 3rd. I think they got from Denver, Tom. Next round. So now I think there's another trade. So just when you thought the phones weren't working, buzzing now. We'll be back.
Hey everyone, Matt Weiner here in the studio with the SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. No surprises at the top of the draft after Mario Williams, Reggie Bush, then Vince Young to the Saints and Titans. Matt Leinart did slip to 10th. Jay Cutler, the other quarterback of those big 3, goes 11th right after him. Tony Stewart involved in a crash to the Busch Series Aaron's 312 at Talladega. He is considered okay. In a rare baseball crash at Yankee Stadium this afternoon, Gary Sheffield and Shea Hillenbrand got tangled up at first base. Sheffield suffered bruises. Hillenbrand will have a CAT scan. SportsCenter at 11 and up-to-the-minute draft news alerts from mobile ESPN. Back to New York.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Matt Weiner, Matt Leinart. It's a busy day. Lots of trades here in the second round. But this, we mentioned it at the beginning, could happen today. And this is an interesting one. The Green Bay Packers moving up and getting Denver's second-round pick in exchange for disgruntled wide receiver Javon Walker. We got to go back and tell that story, but let me just tell these last couple of days, Javon Walker, as soon as Brett Favre was back, you knew that they were not going to play together anymore. As Favre calling him out last year with a holdout, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what the problem was that Javon Walker's coming off a knee injury. Teams wanted to know, can we at least get him in for a physical before we start making trades? So he visited New Orleans. He visited Denver. That was yesterday. The plan was not to let him get out of Denver. Somehow he snuck out, and Philly got to take a look. All right, I don't think in the middle of the night, he landed Philly. They took a look. He was supposed to perhaps go on to New England. I don't think that ever happened. That would have been this morning. But in the end, the team saw from his knee, good enough. Could he play week? Well, who knows? But good enough so that he's cleared medically. And in the end, even though shades of bogey on the tarmac at Casablanca with the planes leaving in the middle of the night, Javon Walker, they liked him in Denver, and a day later, the Denver Broncos made the trade. What else? Well, now the Packers have traded this to Atlanta. That pick is in, but then we're going to finish this story with Mort, because this all reminds me of the AFL, NFL days in the early 60s when the AFL would hide players. Hold on.
Pick number 37, the Atlanta Falcons have selected from Virginia Tech defensive back Jimmy Williams.
All right, now that's...
The Raiders.
Okay, let's just continue the Javon Walker story, Mort. In the AFL days when each team drafted, I remember Buck Buchanan, Hall of Famer Buck Buchanan, the Chiefs You couldn't find him for 2-3 days in some motel. The NFL couldn't draft him. The Raiders did all this stuff. It was interesting times. I'm not suggesting that's what happened here, but this was in the middle of the night, Mort. But Denver got their guy.
And they did get their guy, and they got Jay Cutler, a young quarterback, in the first round. But, you know, let's go to this Walker situation. It's not only because of Brett Favre that Javon Walker's out of there. This is a guy who said he wanted a new contract. And even before Favre made his announcement he was coming back, he had said, I'm not going to play for the Packers this year. I would report in the 10th week or whatever. The dangerous precedent here, and the precedent was always set when Mike McKenzie, the former cornerback for the Pro Bowl cornerback for the Packers, he forced his way out of Green Bay. And I know Ted Thompson, the general manager, did not want to give away Javon Walker, so he was holding to his price with a second-round pick. And a very interesting pick, by the way, that the Falcons now have bookend Virginia Tech cornerbacks in D'Angelo Hall. Now they just took Jimmy Williams just to switch over. That's, you know, that's unique.
The squeeze was on because they wanted maybe a 1 or a couple of 2s, but they also wanted picks this year. And now, you know, you get into the second round, so he ended up getting just a 2. And so Javon Walker now going with a quarterback, Cutler to Denver. Denver trying to push the envelope offensively. Meanwhile, Jimmy Williams, defensive back, goes to now Atlanta, a team that did not have a first-round pick, Mel.
And needed defensive backfield help, no question. A cornerback / free safety like Jimmy Williams is. You see athleticism here, playing the cornerback spot against Devin Aroma-Shadu from Auburn, coming back, making the interception there. Steve Suter here. You see cover skills of Jimmy Williams. Keep in mind, he's big. He's 6'2½". He's 211 pounds. Good hip flexibility, smooth turning motions. I think cornerback, it will be an opportunity for Jimmy Williams early in his career. Then he has the ability to move maybe back inside to free safety because he is a physical, tough kid. You watch him here. This is somebody who had no fear of making a play in coverage, whether it was coming up to support, hitting, or being an aggressive performer. Jimmy Williams was a quality player in the ACC for Virginia Tech. There's no doubt about that. I thought he could be a mid to late first. I don't think anybody could have argued with that choice had he gone there. Atlanta aggressively moves up, figuring he's not going to drop too much further. You have still 2 pretty good corners. Ashton Yabodi at Ohio State, Richard Marshall at Fresno State still on the board. So of those 10 defensive backs I had targeted for the first round, we had 3 still there, 1 off the board now, leaves 2 still remaining at this point in the draft, which will provide some definite value.
And the Falcons, you know, they got this pipeline to Virginia Tech. They took a guy named Michael Vick there a few years ago with their first-round pick. And then they took, as I mentioned, D'Angelo Hall, who's become a Pro Bowl cornerback. And Jimmy Williams had a first-round grade, but some people complained about his attitude. Obviously, the Falcons are okay with the attitude, apparently.
D'Angelo Hall right now, best cornerback in the league.
It's a little bit cocky.
He will teach this guy how to play corner in the NFL. Physical guy.
Well, every pick is a trade here in the second round of the NFL draft. Oakland on the clock. Maybe they're stashing more players. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Williams, and you're watching the 2006 NFL Draft on ESPN.
Noble, versatile, elusive, the man of speed, Vince Young.
I'm Vince Young in this game, I'm so fresh. And every yard that I gain, extra minute of fame. I'm Vince Young in this game, I'm so fresh. And every yard that I gain, extra minute of fame, man.
And welcome back to the NFL Live set. Trey Wingo here with Mark Schlereth, Ron Jaworski, and Merrill Hodge, who came closest to dressing like Vince Young.
Was it the shirt?
Was it the shirt? It's a little bit of something. Listen, guys, in just a little bit, Tennessee Titans are going to make their second-round selection. A lot of issues, Merrill, with Vince Young, the quarterback they took 3rd overall in the first round. He's got to transition himself to the NFL now, and one of the things you know he's got to do better is read coverage.
Yeah, one thing that's studying tapes on him playing in Texas, watching 5 games over and over and over, identifying and reading coverage was not one of the strengths in the Texas offense. They didn't do that. They didn't teach that to Vince Young, and it was very evident in a lot of the tape I studied. Here's a pro-style formation, tight end, 2 wide receivers. Here's your route combination. You got fades on the outside, in route by the tight end. Well, you know on pre-snap read, as far as coverage, receiver to my left, gone because the corner's off. Tight end's going to be dead, too, because I got coverage over the top of him. Where do I want to go? The press coverage on the outside. This is elementary 101 football. As I drop back 5 steps, this ball should be gone. Why? Because my receiver to the left, coverage didn't change. He's no good. It's a fade route. My tight end's not going to win with 3 guys on him. but that press coverage that I saw pre-snap, ball should be out right now. That is a touchdown. Vince Young didn't even recognize or identify that coverage because in Texas, it's a one-read system. They came out of the huddle and they said this, we're throwing it to our tight end. He's our best wide receiver. Vince Young stares him down. Because the tight end doesn't win, they don't win in the passing game. And then he doesn't have the quickness to make everybody miss, and he takes a sack. As I look at Vince Young and I transition him to the National Football League, that is a monumental learning curve. Identifying coverages, dropping back, dissecting them, and then knowing where the ball's got to go instantaneously is going to be a monumental learning curve. That is why it's going to be a very difficult thing for him. And I'm just talking coverage right now. I haven't even talked about a pro-style offense. And I know, Josh, you have some things that you look at him mechanically that you don't think is going to be working in the NFL.
Release point. Well, there's no question he has some mechanical problems that need to be addressed, but they are correctable problems. Now, I'm going to compare him to the most mechanical sound quarterback in the National Football League, that being Carson Palmer of the Cincinnati Bengals. If we take a look at this tutorial right now, you'll see that Carson Palmer always has a nice knee flex. You'll see as he comes out on the right, Carson Palmer, on the left, Vince Young. Now, at the setup, you'll see Carson Palmer flex very nicely. You can drive through the ball. Vince Young, a little bit stiff knee. That will hurt his accuracy. Now, the other thing you have to look at is the elbow. Carson Palmer gets the elbow up. The ball comes out high. You look at Vince Young, the short, compact stroke, but the ball not coming over the top. The other thing you have to look at, and I think this is very important, the back foot must drive the hips through so the ball comes out with velocity. Vince Young has a tendency to get his back foot off the ground. The ball will hang a little bit, and in the National Football League, if the ball hangs a little bit, corners and safeties will drive and make the interception. All those things I pointed out are correctable problems. Norm Shaw will have his work cut out for him. Now, there's one little thing I do want to show you, because we talked about the delivery. All right, we talked about the delivery being low, right about here. Now, if you got a 6'5" guy and Carson Palmer throws it, the ball's coming out over the top here. Vince Young has to work on getting the ball up, because here's what you have, the pass rush. At times, you're going to have to throw it around those guys. Now, the other problem that I see in Vince Young is the fact that he's a long strider. So now, if Carson Palmer's here and Vince Young is here, you can see he's already dropped about 6 to 8 inches. Now, the long stride, if he's throwing from the tip of his shoulder pad, Vince Young, and he takes a long stride, as you can see, this ball has dropped even lower. So now you got a 6'5" quarterback. Mechanics are hurting him. He's throwing like a 5'11" quarterback. He's going to have to make a much more compact stroke, not a long stride, and snap those hips around and throw with that back foot with the weight transition coming to the wide receiver. Then that pass rush won't affect him as much.
So you're talking about learning how to read coverage, right? You're talking about mechanical issues that he has got to change. You put that and couple it with the fact that you're going to get a playbook that's 3 times as thick as the one you had in Texas. That is a learning curve that's tough for anybody to overcome. A lot of things that Vince Young is going to have to look at.
We said from day one of this, when we talked about this draft, he's going to be a project. You're going to have to be patient, but he has tremendous upside.
Well, then the other issue is, and we talked about this last year with the #1 overall pick in Alex Smith. Look, 90 to 95% of Vince Young snaps at Texas were out of the shotgun, transitioning to playing under center and backpedaling while reading the coverages. How difficult will that be?
You want my opinion? No difference whatsoever. When I came out of Youngstown State University, I was not under center. Yet I threw for almost 30,000 yards, a couple hundred touchdown passes. Here's how I took the ball from center. A short exchange. You throw the ball in the NFL 35, 36,000 times a year. Repetition, practice, rote memory. Vince Young will get it down.
Do you buy that? Do you buy that it won't be difficult doing?
I just think all the things that he is going to have to learn, he's not going to have enough time to learn this. When you're a top 5 pick and you are the quarterback,
good point,
you are supposed to carry this team to a Super Bowl. He is not going to have 3 years to learn all these things, and that is what it ultimately will take. They'll put him on the field. He won't be able to handle that. He'll have the ability to run around a little bit and make some plays, but not to have a consistent offense.
It's the next staff that's going to benefit from Vince Young.
It won't be the staff that's currently there.
The next staff.
By the way, in the last 10 years, there have been 24 quarterbacks taken in the first round. 1 has led their team to the Super Bowl, and that would be Ben Roethlisberger this past season. Hey. All right, we got to stop this right now. Lots more coming. Stay with us. The NFL Draft continues right here on ESPN.
I'm Vince Young from the University of Texas.
10 to the 10, 5, touchdown Texas.
You're watching the 2006 NFL Draft on ESPN.
I'm Vince Young in this game, I'm so fresh. And every yard that I gain, extra minute of fame, man.
When my allergies get really bad, I feel like I'm in a fog. Now I'm Claritin Clear. Claritin gives me non-drowsy relief from my worst symptoms for 24 hours. It's the only one proven to make you alert and focused. Got it. Non-drowsy Claritin. Live Claritin Clear.
The FIFA World Cup. All 64 matches on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC.
ESPN's coverage of the NFL Draft is brought to you by Under Armour, Click Clack, and Lowe's. For all your home improvement needs, Lowe's. Let's build something together.
Okay, let's get you caught up on some things. Jimmy Williams, we told you, went to Atlanta with their trade. Thomas Howard, interesting linebacker from UTEP, who can move, is now drafted by the Oakland Raiders. Philadelphia moved up to the 39 hole on a guy that they were thinking about taking in the first round, if not where they were drafting, but moving down someone in the first round, they get in the second round. Winston Justice, the tackle at USC, goes to the Eagles now in a trade we'll tell you about in a moment. Detroit picking Daniel Bullocks, his twin brother in the NFL last year. Safety Nebraska going to the Lions. And then, interesting, Denny Green picks Deuce Latui, the big guard from USC. What did he do? Well, he blocked for Matt Leinart, who was drafted by Arizona in the first round. Here are the trades. The Eagles swap picks. As you can see, the Eagles, the swap picks with Tennessee, and it cost them a fourth to go up to get Justice. And we detailed some of his story before, but if he can just play, and stay on the right side of Justice, could be a hell of a pick for Philly in the second round.
He has talent. There's no question about that. I mean, at one point in time, might have been 14 to Philadelphia. Then everybody said, well, he could go 10 to Arizona. And he had some momentum going after his workout. Everybody said, oh, he's moved up because the offensive tackle didn't materialize. We had DeBrickashaw Ferguson. We had everybody else. He was second in line. And you watch him playing right tackle late in the year. He said, hey, I'm playing the best football of my career. Struggled early after being out all of 2004 with that off-the-field issue. But for Matt Leinart, you're talking about a guy who did a real good job protecting his blind side. And now all of a sudden you're talking about going to a Philadelphia Eagle team that needs an offensive tackle like Winston Justice. And he should come in as anybody that drops from maybe pick 10 to 14 all the way into round 2. They usually come in highly motivated to prove the doubters wrong. Lendale White still has not gone. Deuce Latui just went to Denny Green and the Arizona Cardinals. So sometimes these kids need that to kind of wake them up and realize it's the first time they've ever dealt with criticism, and now they have to really step up their performance going into the National Football League.
Look, what did we say? Andy Reid, what he'll do first is look for offensive and defensive help if it's there. Bunkley, and Winston. It's a team intent on getting back in it.
It's a great pickup for Philly, and I think it really clearly speaks to a bigger issue of character. Guys who could have gone earlier in the draft, but because of character issues, they end up sliding. Teams not willing to take a chance on them in first round, pay them first round money. I think you'll see a lot of those kinds of guys begin to come off the board. Now, a guy like Lendale White, I wouldn't suspect would stay on this board much longer. Could have been a possible first rounder. Now you get more value, more bang for your buck midway through the second round.
And just to review one of those character red flags on Winston Justice, not all of them, but in March of 2004, he was charged with 3 misdemeanors because he had a replica gun. It wasn't a real gun, but he pointed at a USC student. Not smart. He got 60 days with electronic monitoring. He got 5 years probation, but he was suspended for 2 semesters, which meant he missed the entire 2004 season. And you know, when you look at the Southern Cal guys with their expectations coming in, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Winston Justice, Lendale White, all had some type of disappointment today. And of course, they lost the national championship game. It's been a rough year for a very successful team.
Yeah, that's a very fair observation. More at the other 2 guys picked, a couple guys picked Thomas Howard. Here's a linebacker, UTEP, who some projected, Mel, possibly late first round, just as a guy rising, yeah?
Well, Jacksonville was, I think, the target team, Boomer, for a guy like Thomas Howard because he's so fast. He ran in the 4.4 range. He's a former defensive back. He's actually a walk-on when he came to UTEP, came to that minor program, developed into their best defensive player. Had 3 very good years for UTEP, playing late in his career for Mike Price. You look at his productivity at UTEP, it was pretty good. But I think some of those tackles, obviously, when you talk about the college level, if you're in the area, you get credit for a tackle. He went from 118 tackles as a sophomore, dropped to 62 as a junior, then back up to 85 as a senior. Very athletic kid, very fast. 4.44 was his time at the combine. Problem you'll see with a guy like Thomas Howard is not real instinctive. Locating the ball, I think is a problem at times, doesn't play as fast as he times. Yeah, you talk about taking the right angles in pursuit, doesn't always do that. Yeah, there's some issues about playing in the National Football League within the structure of a defense and what they're asking him to do. But as a speed guy who can fly around the field and make some athletic plays, make some big plays for you, he has that. He actually held his own at the Senior Bowl practices. He did a good job down in Mobile. You see him at the Combine running that 4.42 40. So, yeah, if he can stay out of traffic as a linebacker, flow the football better, but you can't teach instincts. You can't coach instincts. That's why instead of having first-round computer numbers, that's why he's still there in round 2. A guy that does have real good instincts for the game of football is Daniel Bullocks out of Nebraska. His twin brother Josh went to the second round last year in New Orleans. Now we see Daniel going round 2 to the Detroit Lions and get it played at Nebraska at a very high level. Then had some very good workouts, solid football player. Look at his size and his speed combination. Very impressive. You watch him here getting after the quarterback, making a play in the backfield after they handed the ball to the running back on a draw play, and coverage did a nice job. And that's what impressed me at the Senior Bowl. Made some real nice plays in coverage down in Mobile. You watch him here as well. To me, Daniel Bullocks, I thought, early second. That's about where he went here. And where he hit that 9-10 picks into round 2 for a Detroit Lion team that can certainly use his help at a safety spot.
All right, so those are picks fast and furious here in the second round as we're about a third of the way through. We're at Radio City Music Hall. Arizona picked Deuce Latsui. Then we have Chicago and New Orleans and Baltimore. When we return to New York, steamrolling toward the middle of the second round at Radio City Music Hall.
Stay tuned to witness the next revelation in professional football.
Hand off to Bush, left side of the 10. He's in the end zone. Matt Leinart, touchdown, UFC.
Welcome back to the 2006 NFL Draft. There's Lendell White. Continues to plummet. Got a little bit of a smile on his face, but is somebody going to get himself a steal as he continues to drop and slide in the draft? And how about the players that have been taken from USC? Reggie Bush, Winston Justice, there we go. Winston Justice. I got Reggie Bush, Leinart, Justice on the mind, and Lutu going the most recent pick at 41 to the Arizona Cardinals and Denny Green. Guys, conditioning. At the Rose Bowl, Lendell White's 252 pounds. He's now 239 according to him. Should conditioning, and you guys are all well-conditioned athletes, should conditioning be this big a problem that he slid this far from January to now for NFL clubs, William?
Teams are always going to be concerned with potential red flags, injury, or lack of performance, durability based on the fact that the player can't control his weight or can't control his conditioning. Therefore, they're going to be a lot more reserved about picking a player that has shown the potential to have devastating results as it.
Yeah, but I think in Lendell's case, it's a non-issue. You look at the guy; he's the record holder in USC history for touchdowns. That's got to carry some weight. No pun intended. But I think that the fact that he's been a runner now and he set the records that he has, obviously the weight issue has been some concern, but his injury is going to hamper that. That's going to slow down his training. Like we were talking here, he's already lost 13 pounds since the end of the Rose Bowl.
I think it's absolutely crazy. Cut on the film and watch this young man play. It hasn't been a problem up to this point now with USC. They never had said anything about his conditioning. He's been a deterrent or a nuisance to the ball club. There haven't been any character issues or anything regarding Lendell White. So I don't know what all this speculation is about. Look, he can't. If he has a hamstring problem, he has to take the time off to heal that. He's about to make the most important jump of his life to the National Football League. Now, this is a step that he's now going to feed himself and his family. He has to take time off to heal. So, of course, he may gain a little weight. Right. And according to him, he hasn't gained any weight. So don't hold that against him.
And the fact that it's a hamstring injury, it's a soft tissue injury. It's not a hip problem.
Absolutely.
It's not a knee problem, ankle, shoulder, any of that. It's a soft tissue deal. You know it's going to be better. You know he's going to heal from it. It's not a chronic soft tissue problem. It's something he's had to deal with his entire career at USC. So I think it's a non-issue.
I'll be very patient and let you finish, but the reality is you're talking about conditioning. That means keeping your body in the top physical position to play and perform. It's obvious that he let himself slide to the point where he ended up with the injury. Therefore, it's a red flag. Does he keep himself in condition all the time? Is he always worried about the important things? Making sure he can play every play when asked. And if he's coming out with a soft frame, which is what our scouts had criticized him about, you got to wonder if there's going to be a bigger problem down the road.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. Do you question now, because he's out of shape, do you question his mental toughness at the next level?
I'm not going to buy that this young man is out of shape. I may be biased because I like him that much. I think he is.
Some guys just don't have a good body, right?
Some guys are not chiseled like this guy from Vernon Davis. Some guys aren't built that way. I know Marshall Faulk wasn't a chiseled guy, but when you cut on the film, this guy performing. When you do that with Liddell White, when you cut on the film, you see a guy that can perform at a high level, and that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm taking. As far as the conditioning standpoint, I can talk with him and deal with him. I can get him ready. I think he's fine, man. Absolutely
I think he'll be fine. I think the track record speaks for itself. Like Torrey says, put on the film. Look at what he's done over the last 3 years. Look at how he's able to convert first downs, convert touchdowns in the red zone. You can count on him. He's a guy that you can lean on. For the last 3 years, USC has been the best college team in football, and there's reasons for it.
Well, it's obvious they're scared of what he's done in the recent past. Therefore, that's why his stock has dropped a little bit. Somebody's going to steal. He is a quality player. He's a very talented player, and I'm not taking that from him. But the question now is he going to keep himself in condition to play down in 16
real quickly,
games?
guys, and Trent, you can answer this. You think he's a self-starter enough, or is he going to need a kick him in the rear end, Bill Cowher type of coach to get him going?
I don't think necessarily. I don't think so. When you look at the fact that he has dropped 13 pounds since the Rose Bowl, the fact that it's a soft tissue deal, he even said himself he's going to be ready in 2 weeks. That's in time for the mini camp. I don't think it's a situation where you're going to need somebody to push
this guy, Liddell. Look, I'm riding with you, homie. When you come to the National Football League, please have a chip on your shoulder and tear the league up. Please confirm that for me, please.
Guy on your team, Larry Johnson, chip on his shoulder.
That's right.
It's worked out for him. Lendell White continues to fall in this draft. Somebody going to get him. Somebody going to get themselves a good football player. We'll see if conditioning does matter. This is the 2006 NFL Draft.
Welcome back to New York, where now might we see the next round of quarterbacks go, like Brody Croyle of Alabama. Would this be his time here in the second round? Or Charlie Whitehurst, the son of one-time Packer quarterback David Whitehurst, quarterback from Clemson. Or Kellen Clemens is a quarterback you might hear from Oregon. That might be one that might come up. And so is it time, Mel, to see some of these quarterbacks, and you have a couple other names there.
They are all second rounders. I think you look at Brody Croyle, certainly the injury factor. He had an injury his senior year in high school, then the injury at Alabama, but he held up this year without the offensive line really supporting him. They had an injury to their center, J.B. Klossner. Croyle had a great week in Mobile at the Senior Bowl practice. I thought he was as good there as Jay Cutler, if not better. Kellen Clemens, another guy, injured in October. He's back now to close to where he wants to be. You're talking about a kid who has second-round value. Minnesota, we're talking about, as a team in round 2, I think, will take a young quarterback. Whitehurst has his good games and has his so-so games. He was that way as well down at the Senior Bowl practice. And Tavares Jackson, you're talking about a kid who's got the strongest arm, arguably, of any quarterback in this draft. He could go as early as round 2 or 3. And Omar Jacobs, a lot of productivity. He's the assistant guy. Remember, Josh Harris had big games and big numbers in that same offense. That unorthodox delivery may scare some people off of Omar Jacobs until you get into maybe early day 2.
All right, so that's quarterbacks, which we'll keep an eye on, and I agree. Minnesota, remember, they got 2 2s, 2 3s. Why not throw one in there? We had a trade, but this has been the trading round, because a lot of names that could be first, or we thought, well, possibly could be first. Now that they're in the top to the middle of the second round, teams coming up from lower in the second round to get what some people had as first-round picks. And the Giants did that. They just traded up to the 44th spot with Baltimore to get the younger brother of Santana Moss, and that would be Sonoris Moss from the U of Miami, Mike. And, again, like Santana, diminutive, 5'8", but I mean, Santana Moss, this side of Steve Smith and young man in Cincinnati, right, had about as good a year as anybody had last year. So here's his younger brother. How does he compare?
Explosive football player. You see it here, just the way he just has that burst to shoot by those cornerbacks in coverage. And a kid who catches the ball inside in traffic and can make some plays. You see him after the catch here. Dynamic performer after the catch. Santana Moss's older brother. You see how he's doing with the Redskins now. He's a former first-round pick. You look at a guy like Ernest Gibbons. Remember the old former Oiler? Saw a lot of Ernest Gibbons in Sonoris Moss, and he's what they need. I mean, he has some return potential. Keep in mind, they were breaking in a new quarterback, Kyle Wright, so his production maybe didn't match his ability, but after the catch, he is a heck of a talent. Runs the 4.38 range, and when you look at Sonoris Moss and what he means to Eli Manning, you have Toomer, you have Burris. Tim Carter, former second-round pick out of Auburn, has had some injury issues. I thought Pittsburgh could have stayed where they were and gotten Moss, which they could have. They traded up to get Holmes. The Giants took Kiwanuka, defensive end, in the first. I like this pick better. I think Sonoris Moss is going to be a big help to Eli Manning, produce big plays, and is a third option in that passing game. I think he's exactly what the Giants need.
And you can see the trend of the wide receivers in the NFL, starting with Steve Smith. It seems like the trend is going back to the smaller, fast receivers, throwing the little zero screens and letting them take the ball and do something with the ball after the catch. And that's exactly what Sonoris Moss fits. He fits that style of play. He'll become a great third down guy, a slot guy for Eli Manning. Get the ball out of his hand fast and allow him to make some plays after the catch.
And Tom Coughlin, the coach of the Giants, believes in big plays. He thinks it energizes your team, that you need a big play every quarter to energize your team.
Well, they already have a big receiver in Plexico Burris. Now they got the big play little guy in Moss. Now, Mel, right before that, Roman Harper was picked by the New Orleans Saints and Cleveland's original slot due to a trade.
There he is, number 41, coming away with the interception there, here, making the play, stripping the ball, causing the fumble. And you look at a guy like Roman Harper, 38 consecutive starts at Alabama, very durable performer. He's not the kind of lights-out hitter that some of these other safeties are. He's not quite as fast as some of the other defensive backs, but he's an extension of your defensive coordinator, real smart. Talking about D'Amico Ryans, former Crimson Tide linebacker, going to Houston, first pick in round 2. Roman Harper, that similar kind of player in that secondary. For the second year in a row, New Orleans drafts a safety in round 2. They got last year they got Josh Bullock, Daniel Bullock's twin brother. Now they come back with Roman Harper, smart kid, good, solid football player. I don't think he has huge upside, but he's a guy very dependable there every week. As I said, started every game in his college career.
Oh, by the way, if you're tuning in late, the New Orleans Saints, with the second pick overall, picked a guy you might have heard of, a Heisman Trophy winner, Reggie Bush. So Bush and Harper, USC and Alabama, they're the Saints picks thus far. And Tom, you made the point before, and I want to reiterate it because we know it's dinner time in the East, etc. People may be just tuning in not only to see about Bush and stuff, but two franchises. You talked about it off camera, right? New Orleans with Reggie Bush and Arizona perhaps with Matt Leinart. Two franchises have some things to, if these guys pan out and we think they will, hang their hat on two franchises begging for something to happen.
Well, I think that coaches tend to look for the kind of players who can be the face of your franchise for the foreseeable future, and I think that's possibly what you get with those two guys. And that kind of player doesn't always come along. The high character guy who also is the outstanding and great athlete, you can put him out front with your organization for the next, 7 to 10 years. That's a guy that's hard to find.
And Matt Leinart is that for Arizona, but boy, Reggie Bush, with all New Orleans has gone through, and I'm talking about, I feel good about Reggie Bush going to New Orleans, and we all do, what he'll do for that city, because he's such a great person, such a great guy. He'll help rebuild that football team in that community.
And he'll put fannies in the seats, which Tom Benson, the owner, is looking for, certainly, to get some people back in the Superdome, and they will be playing in the Superdome.
No question about that. We're in the middle of the second round here at Radio City Music Hall, a place where it's been entertaining folks for 3/4 of a century. We hope we're doing that now. We'll be back.
Liner throws, touchdown throw. Cutler steps in, fires, passes, caught. Touchdown, D'Angelo time, touchdown, Tigers. Touchdown, USC, Lindale White.
Welcome back to the 2006 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Now, and Gene Washington ready to go to the podium. And here's a name you might know, Tennessee on the board.
With pick number 45, Tennessee has selected from USC running back Lindale White.
There we go with Tennessee, baby.
Well, Jeff Fisher and Norm Chow get their Trojan, a different one, but certainly one that they know. And Tennessee, remember when they were rolling? I mean, they're big back Eddie George. I'm not saying that they run the same style, but they certainly had some success by running a big running back.
It's not going to be Matt Leinart handing the ball off to Lendale White. It'll be Vince Young. But when you look at Lendale White, 6.7-yard average per carry. You watch him throughout his career at USC. 21 rushing touchdowns this past year, 52 for his career. Kid between the tackles does a heck of a job moving the chains, scoring touchdowns, and a kid who brings an attitude on the field. You say, well, he's not focused during the offseason, doesn't work as hard during the offseason, but on game day and during the course of that season, he gives you everything he has. Now, what he has to realize is the NFL is a 12-month-a-year job. Once he does that, and Jeff Fisher, I think, when Norm Chow will convince him of that, there's no question this kid has skills. Now, we're only in the second round. This kid didn't fall to the fourth round. That's right. There's been a lot of daggone good running backs in round two. In fact, at one point 3 years ago, 21 of the 32 starting running backs went from the second round on. So this has always been from the second round on where the running backs that have been productive in the NFL tend to go. And
remember, late in the Rose Bowl, it was him in the game, right? Which was interesting, but with the Heisman Trophy winner, there was Lendale running.
You know what I heard about the weight thing, and I think being in the NFL is going to help him. He gained weight, actually, after their regular season game against UCLA at the end of the season. That month between that game and the national championship game against Texas is when he ballooned up. In the NFL, hey, you don't have those big bye weeks, you don't get a month off in season. So I think once this guy gets in season, once he gets in training camp, Jeff Fisher will keep him in shape.
The thing that he brings that you cannot pay for is that ability to take the ball from the 5-yard line into the end zone. Most running backs don't have it. You think about historically the backs at the University of Southern California. This guy scored the most touchdowns in the history of that school. That's got to mean something. And somebody's getting a gym here. And that's Jeff exactly Fisher's what it is. getting a gym. And that's exactly what it is. And Norm Chow will know how to motivate them, Tom. But you can't blame people now because this league is about motivation. And if you're not motivated with millions of dollars on the line, it's going to be a problem you being motivated with millions in your pocket. Now, it works out that he goes to a great place for him because Chris Brown, he stays hurt a lot too. He'll get some work, he'll get some run, and he's an offense that he knows.
Yeah, Tennessee really trying to pick it up from the bottom. You know, they're usually a playoff team, and obviously we will address, and they will address whether Steve McNair will be back. The odds on is that he may be going elsewhere, but Jeff Fisher will try very hard to keep Steve McNair there as he's already drafted Vince Young. So Lendale White goes to Tennessee. Let's go down to Susie Colbert. Suze?
Well, Chris, one of the things that has marked this draft is new beginnings. 10 new head coaches, 7 first-time head coaches, and one of those first-timers is Sean Payton, who heads the New Orleans Saints. And Sean, when you saw that Reggie Bush was going to be on the board for the number 2 pick, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Well, you know, last night we had heard that this might be a possible scenario. We spent some time last night visiting, and this morning we got up, and sure enough, it appeared that was the case. We were excited. We think he's a fantastic weapon offensively. Also a great guy and someone that I think will bring excitement here to this city, this town, and this region. So as an organization, you know, we couldn't be more excited.
And trying to keep everyone on the roster happy, how do you address Deuce McAllister, obviously another high-priced back that you already have?
Well, I think that falls on us as coaches. You know, we'll have various personnel packages and you know, the things that both these players bring to the table. Reggie brings a threat in the passing game as well as the running game, and Deuce is certainly a guy that has had a great start in his career. So we'll come up with enough ways to get these guys the touches, and those are good problems to have.
What is a realistic timetable for your quarterback, Drew Brees?
You know, just from talking with Drew last night, he feels he's ahead of schedule. He's begun to throw in his rehabilitation. I think that, you know, we expect this June mini camp for him to be involved in taking snaps. We'll monitor how many throws he gets and make sure that we don't overdo it. But I think the type of player he is and the type of worker he is, that was part of the investment in him, and he's doing well so far. We're excited about it.
Sean, we look forward to seeing you in your home opener on Monday Night Football.
We look forward to seeing you as well. Thanks, Susie.
Thank you, Sean. Chris, let's go back to you.
All right, Susie, thank you very much. And so Sean Payton, one of the new head coaches, a guy certainly not new to this league, and that would be the general manager of the New York Football Giants, our Coors Light video phone. And joining us now from about 8 miles away, that would be Ernie Accorsi of the New York Football Giants. And Ernie, you went down and got Tuinuka in the first round, and you went up and got Moss in the second round. So always be near the phone, I guess. You've known that for a long time, haven't you?
Yes, Chris, it's good being with you. Well, had we not made the trade in the first round, we wouldn't have had the extra pick to make the trade for Moss. So we were happy that in the first round, we have two great defensive ends. But our feeling is that you never have enough of pass rushers. They're the home run hitters. They're the people who put the pressure on the defense, on the offense, for your defense. So we just couldn't pass him up. And then picking up that extra third gave us the ability to move up to get Moss.
A walk back a week, Ernie, and LeVar Arrington, the signing of him, didn't look like for a while that would get done. What changed things, and describe his attitude in his first few days as a Giant?
Well, we tried to be patient, Chris. In the beginning, certainly we wanted a physical examination, and we couldn't get one. Once we got the physical and felt satisfied in that respect, then we started to resume negotiations. We came up with something that was, satisfiable to us and to him. He's a great kid. I talked to Marty Schottenheimer this morning, who coached him, a very dear friend of mine, and Marty was telling me he loved being around him. He excites the locker room. The one thing, Chris, is we have a number of outstanding players on defense. We don't have a lot of huge players. We don't have a lot of size, and he gives us a big, powerful player on defense.
Eli Manning going into year 3. Sky's still the limit, I assume, in your eyes.
Oh, I think the young man has great ability. I wish I could be around long enough to see all these years. I hope I'm on this earth, but in this job, but I won't be. But I think he's going to have an outstanding year. He played brilliantly the first half of the season. Came in a little bit of a slump the second year, but that happens. I expect big things from him this year.
Well, let's go back to it. I know this is a draft the first year without Mr. Mara, Mr. Tisch, and you stayed on for an extra year. Is this going to be it for you in this role as GM with the Giants, Ernie?
Chris, it probably is. 35 years is a good round number. This is my 35th draft and probably my last.
Number 47, the Packers.
Well, we congratulate you on being a friend of ours, and how about the team that the Giants, you restored it to help win the division last year, and I know that that you're looking for even bigger and better things this year. Thanks for joining us, and don't go away too soon, will you?
All right, Chris, thanks a lot. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernie Accorsi, a guy that we've gotten to know through the years, a guy that Mel taught you a couple things too, Mel. When we talk with Lendell White when we come back, stay with us.
I am Lendell White.
A bruising run for Lendell White.
Yeah, in life you got two options. That chose to win, write my life through a pen. I strive to be the best, that's what God intends.
You're watching the NFL Draft on ESPN.
Work to be the best.
Welcome back, everybody, to Radio City Music Hall on 6th Avenue between 51st and 52nd Street. It opened Christmas week in 1932 with Ray Bolger, the Flying Walendas, and the Rockettes. Gone on to produce the Radio City Christmas Spectacular with the Rockettes, 36 strong, over 3/4 of a century of entertainment. 300 million people have come into this building since it opened in earnest the last week in 1932 to see the likes of Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and Count Basie. You can go on and on and on. Movie debuts. It's just a pleasure to have the NFL Draft in here in such a historic building. We can go on and on and on, and during the third round we will. Down to Susie Colbert.
Well, Chris, the Tennessee Titans 9-23 over the last 2 seasons. It seems as though they've certainly helped themselves in this draft. 2 marquee players, quarterback Vince Young in the first round. In the second round, Lendell White, the power back out of USC. And we welcome Lendell in live from Denver. And Lendell, we've watched you wait 6 hours, 20 minutes. Put this in perspective, how you've dealt with the day.
Oh, well, honestly, the wait's been hard all day. It's been a lot of fun, just sitting here with all my family and friends. It's been long overdue. Coach Fish and the Titans took a chance and they picked me up, and I'm happy. I can't wait. I'm excited to work with the program, and I can't wait to start winning football games.
Your numbers, your production at USC are clear. Through the whole process, what's the biggest criticism that you've heard?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
through the process, what has been the biggest criticism that you've heard?
I think the main thing that I've been hearing this whole time is that I'm lazy and I'm not a hard worker. It's just unfortunate. I don't know. I think I kind of take that as a slap in the face because I know how hard I work, and I don't believe that you can have success the way you do unless you work hard.
What do you think the consequences of that have been?
Honestly, I don't know. I just can't wait to get in, the Titans and start winning football games.
You're on the field for the title game playing against Vince Young. Explain to us what's that like in terms of chemistry on a football field, to have fought your heart out against someone and now you and Vince will share the same field.
I'm sorry, it's loud. I can't hear it.
That's okay. Playing with Vince Young. What do you expect that's like after having to go against him in it?
I can't hear. I want to win football games with the Tennessee Titans. I'm happy Vince Young, we back together. Hey, it's a celebration. Thank you.
There you go. A good day all around for Lendale White. Chris.
All right, Susie, thank you. Well, hey, I don't need whatever the question is.
You either.
Let's play football.
That T-shirt say "Got robbed."
Uh-huh.
I think that T-shirt said "Got robbed."
Yes, it did.
Well, maybe the teams that didn't take him got robbed. All right, here's a couple of picks. St. Louis, Joel Kloffenstein, tight end of Colorado, the Buffaloes. Mel?
Well, you need a tight end if you're the St. Louis Rams, Boomer. They didn't get much in terms of productivity out of that spot. Brandon Manu-Maliuna, only 66 receptions in his 5 years, only a 9.8-yard average. They need somebody that can get down and stretch that deep middle. Joe Kloffenstein's a big target, 6'5½", 252 pounds, runs well in the 4.6 range, presents an ideal target in the hook zones. Concentration lapses cause some drop balls, but that's uncharacteristic of Kloffenstein because he does have real good hands. We saw that throughout his career at Colorado. Scored on plays covering 43 and 78 yards, so he does present some big playability from that tight end spot. Blocking needs to improve. I think you look at him strength-wise, he doesn't play for the level of those 27 reps at the combine, but he does present ability in the passing game. This is the St. Louis Rams team, has the ability at wide receiver. They have not had a tight end really step up more and make plays in the passing game. Kloffenstein, that's his forte, getting open and catching the football.
And they've been disappointed with Brandon Manu-Maliuna as a receiving tight end. This guy, Tommy, you like.
Yeah, I like him because even though when you look at him physically, he looks a little bit stiff when he's doing things, all you continue to see him do is catch the ball and run away from people on the defensive side of the football. So he's more athletic than he appears to be. And I think good kid and very productive.
All right, so those are the Rams pick, and certainly with the passing game of the Rams, Kloffenstein will pick right in. Now, here's one of our favorites. Green Bay, in Atlanta spot at 47, has picked a tackle from the Broncos of Boise State, Darren College, who hails from North Pole, Alaska. Now, that's a great place come Christmas time. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in that spot. And will it be Christmas for the Green Bay Packers? He goes to a place close to the North Pole. Mel?
I'll tell you what, he played on that blue carpet at Boise State, and they threw the ball. It was a wide-open offense, and you watch Darren College, very experienced pass blocker. You'll get him now 6'4½", 298 pounds. We'll get probably just over 300. There he is against Matthias Kiwanuka, keeping Matthias at bay in pass protection. What he needs to do is get stronger. 21 reps, his run blocking not where it needs to be. He will be a work in progress early on, but if you can pass block, it can take you a long way. Because you can work on your strength, get in that weight room, work harder in that area, and all of a sudden I think he can make some progress maybe in his second, third year of his career.
Well, at least he can block for Brett Favre, and he comes from a place much north of Green Bay. So playing at Lambeau Field would be like playing in Florida for him if you come from Alaska, wouldn't you think?
I don't think so, Boom. I think it's pretty cold at Lambeau.
That's more.
What's the zip code of North Pole, Alaska? You don't have that readily, do you?
Lambeau Field feels like the North Pole.
Meanwhile, Minnesota's played. It's cold there too, Minnesota, but not as cold as North Pole, Alaska. Plus, just think of the activity around Christmas time. At any rate, Cedric Griffin, cornerback Texas, goes to the Minnesota Vikings. A good player. Texas
solid play. Another kid played every position in the defensive secondary at Texas. He's a tough, aggressive football player. He'll come up, he'll hit you, he'll support the run, he'll fly around the field. What he needs to do when he's in a position to make the play on the deep ball, make the play. Too many times you saw a wide receiver still come down with the catch, and Griffin was right there to make a play, either intercept the pass or bat it down, and didn't do it. So that's something he needs to work on. He's a stellar special teams performer. You would expect that from somebody so aggressive and such a good tackler. Gives you that versatility to play any position in that secondary. They immediately put some pressure on Fred Smoot. You look about his secondary with Antoine Winfield in Minnesota. They need another corner to get into that mix. And he does have the versatility to also put some pressure on those safeties. So he upgrades the secondary just from that standpoint, boom, with the versatility he will be as a rookie, a very good special teams player.
And those are the first picks for new coach Brad Childress. They have a second-round pick coming up, a couple down, and we thought that it might be a quarterback. It still might be, but interesting, the Jets and Dallas have made a trade. The Jets have moved in here and ostensibly to beat Minnesota to the fourth quarterback off the board, who may very well be Brody Croyle. We'll see.
Right.
Hi, everyone. Matt Weiner here with the SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. Thanks to the Houston Texans, Reggie Bush fell into the New Orleans Saints' lap with the number 2 pick. Vince Young went right behind him to the Tennessee Titans. A little bit of a surprise. Matt Leinart fell all the way to number 10 in the Arizona Cardinals. Jay Cutler, the third of the big three quarterbacks, goes 1 pick later to the Denver Broncos. Broncos weren't done there. They also acquired Javon Walker in a trade from the Packers. So Cutler and Jake Plummer will have a new receiver to throw to. From the NBA, Vince Carter had 28 points. The Nets evened up their first-round series with Indiana with a 97-88 win. Up to the minute draft news alerts from mobile ESPN. Now back to New York.
All right, Matt, thank you very much, and welcome back to New York. The Jets just made a trade, as we said. We had the right position. We got a different guy. But just a moment ago, the Jets making the trade. Here's Gene Washington, vice president with the league and a former all-pro receiver with the 49ers.
With pick number 49, the Jets have selected from the University of Oregon, quarterback Kellen Clemens.
Well, this is an interesting pick because here's the next round of quarterbacks. Clemens was a guy hurt last year. But and Croyle, I mean, more what you can get into as well. This is the next two guys that you had. You had Croyle and Clemens. What would swing the difference here for the Jets?
Well, I think if you look at Clemens, you say he's coming off an injury, boom, which he is in late October, broken ankle, and he was having a heck of a year. It's a shame the injury occurred, but Brody Croyle has also had injury issues as well. So don't feel like, well, they should have taken Croyle over Clemens for that reason. Clemens still some time away from being where he needs to be football-wise and 100%, but you look at this year, you're talking about completing 64% of his passes, 19 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. His decision-making late in his career really improved. He has a strong arm. He checks in at 6'1½", 222 pounds, and there were those that thought that if he would have played the entire year at 100%, gone to a Senior Bowl, say, and done well, that he could have been a mid to late first-round pick. So I don't know if I'd have pushed him up that high, Mort, but at this point, I thought Minnesota would have taken him, and what did the Jets do? They jumped right ahead of the Vikings.
Right, and you know, you look at the New York Jets, and when they made their celebrated trek across the country, when they visited Jay Cutler of Vanderbilt and Matt Leinart of USC and Vince Young of Texas was in there, they snuck up the West Coast and went and worked out Kellen Clemens of Oregon. And yes, they love Brody Croyle, but the medicals on Brody Croyle, I'm talking Brody's had a couple knee surgeries, had a shoulder surgery, just didn't make their doctors comfortable enough, I think, to take him. That's why Clemens got the nod here.
Well, hey, look, what they've done thus far, the Jets, now you say, okay, Eric Mangini, you learned at the foot of Bill Belichick, defensive coordinator last year with the Patriots, secondary coach before that. So then you look at the picks and you say, but see, as a head coach, it's another story. Their defense, they can play with the Jets. The offense just disintegrated in front of their own eyes. So the Jets picks, if we have a look at them, they've gone line, and they've gone a quarterback. Brickashaw Ferguson, the outstanding tackle from Virginia, picked at near the top of the whole draft. Nick Mangold, center, Ohio State, when nobody questioned was the top-ranked center in this. Remember, they lost Mawai. And now with Pennington, we'll see. Patrick Ramsey, they're getting the trade from Washington, but yet here's a young kid, and maybe they strike some pay dirt with him. So they've addressed offense, which is a team that got old in a hurry. You know, that Curtis Martin, a year later from his fantastic rushing title season, you know, Curtis won't be quite the same. He wasn't last year. So they really got to rebuild the whole unit. They certainly have done that thus far today, fellas.
And Curtis is coming off of a knee injury, so they still need a good running back to get in and take some of the load off Curtis Martin.
You know, on draft day, we have a half dozen of the picks here in New York at Radio City, and then they get on the planes and they fly to where they're going, and then they're introduced to the local media, and they meet the coach and the head first, et cetera. But in DeBrickashaw Ferguson's case, just get in a car, go, just head out to Long Island. Sal Palantonio at Jets headquarters.
And you know, Boom, DeBrickashaw Ferguson knows Long Island well. He grew up in Freeport, Long Island, which is about, what, 10 miles away maybe?
Yeah,
not even that much. So you're happy to be a New York Jet because you grew up around here. Now they're going to be slotting you in at probably left tackle, right tackle pretty soon. What kind of impact do you think you can make on this team right away?
You know, I'm going to leave that all up to the coaches. You know, I'm just going to come here and try to be a team player. I'm going to go out there and work hard and, you know, allow all those decisions to be up to the coaches.
Now, this team obviously was decimated by injuries on offensive line. Obviously, their quarterback, Chad Pennington, has suffered because of the lack of protection. So you've got a lot of responsibilities on your shoulder, being picked number 4 and to come into an offensive line. What have the coaches told you about what your role will be right away?
Again, I know that as an offensive lineman, it's real key that I just really work on my fundamentals, really learn the game, and just be a type of player that I can learn and just understand what I'm doing. So when my time is, when it's time for me to play, that I'll have more success.
Were you a Jets fan growing up?
Always. Jets is number 1.
Now, you know the pressure of playing in New York. You listen to sports radio around here. Yeah. The Jets passed on Reggie Bush. They passed on taking Matt Leinart. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you. How do you begin to handle all that?
One day at a time, you know, taking small steps. I know if I'm doing my best out there and really trying to do well for the team, then I think the team will respect that.
Guy named Curtis Martin's going to want you to open up some big holes for me. Ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hopefully together, you know, things will look good.
Thanks for joining us. Let's go to Trey Wingo. Trey?
All right, Sal, thanks very much. Welcome into the NFL Live Set. By the way, DeBrickashaw got his name, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, from the book The Thornbirds and the TV series named after that. Little bonus information. The Jets also picked up Kellen Clemens. I have no idea why he was named Kellen, by the way. Quarterback out of Oregon. Mark Schlereth.
How can you not know that?
It's the one thing I can't give you at this moment. Ron Jaworski, you really like this quarterback, Kellen Clemens, maybe even as much as the big 3 we've been talking about for so long.
I remember after looking at 5 games of Kellen Clemens about 6 weeks ago, I called Merrill Hodge and I said, Merrill, I love this guy. He is wired right. He's intelligent. He knows what to do with the football. He's got a strong arm, compact delivery. If he wasn't a great player, he'd be a great coach. In the NFL, you have to make this throw down the seams against a single high safety. This is a critical throw to be successful with at the NFL. Now, it's here, right now, that Kellen will make the decision to throw the football. His anticipation is fantastic. And in the NFL, you've got to be a great anticipator. Clemens understood the single high safety. He was responsible for keeping that safety in the middle, away from his receiver. In this case, it was Demetrius Williams. You'll see him look, stare down that free safety, manipulate him, move him, get him out of the area where that safety wants to go. He's going to open up the hole for Williams. And look at him flick this throw. Now, I love the location on the backside shoulder because the contact is coming. He understood ball placement, like real estate, location, location, location. There is no doubt. Kellen Clemens will be a starter in the National Football League, and I think he has a chance to be a great one. In 5 or 6 years, people may be saying, why did everyone bypass Kellen Clemens just like they did on Tom Brady? This kid is special. And what did I say when you called me? I said, I know, I just got done watching the exact same 5 You agreed with me. And one of the reasons I did like him is because he ran in the exact same system that Vince Young did in Texas. But what you could tell him by that playbook there, he understands coverages. He knew how to manipulate. He had a better anticipation of throwing the football. And look at the transition into New York. One thing that is critical, the elements in November. There's this wind. The door opens up, and that must have, you must have a big-time arm to be able to throw the football. That is why Matt Leinart wouldn't fit here. Kellen Clemens does, and I also agree with Jaws. I think this is a terrific pick because it's in the second round. If you make a mistake here, you don't get fired.
Well, I tell you what, you keep comparing him to Tom Brady. You may get fired if he doesn't want him to be that good of a pick. So Kellen Clemens is a good pick for the Jets in the second round. However, listen, our big hoss here has been praising the Jets all day long for building from the inside, going Mangold and Big DeBrickashaw with their first 2 picks.
Yeah, obviously, because you look at the Jets, they get it. They understand how to build a franchise. You build a franchise from the core, from the inside out. You go after DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who is athletically the best tackle in this draft. Does he have some issues on technique? Certainly he does. Nick Mangold, he is nasty, finishes plays from the center position. You've got 2 guys that can be a mainstay, a cornerstone of your franchise for the next 12 years and are going to protect quarterbacks right now. Even if Clemens isn't ready to go, guys, even if he's not ready to play this early, guess what? They're going to be protecting quarterbacks who need protection. So you look at it from that standpoint, they know what they're doing.
Props to the Jets.
Insurance commercial there.
Well, look, you're in good hands with Flair. No question about it. And the Jets may be in good hands with Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. They were 30th in sacks allowed last season. That should change with these 2 guys up front. As you saw from the fashion show earlier, he's a DeBrickashaw house, ladies and gentlemen.
I am DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
He may be the best offensive lineman in the country if they call him Brick.
You watch the NFL Draft on ESPN.
Welcome back to New York, the 71st NFL Draft. And it was the offseason of quarterback moves. Dante Culpepper goes from Minnesota to Miami. Drew Brees started a couple years in San Diego, did so well, went to New Orleans to replace Aaron Brooks, who moved on to Oakland, who let loose of Kerry Collins. Meanwhile, Brian Griese now backing up Grossman in Chicago. Patrick Ramsey backing up Chad Pennington with the New York Jets. John Kitna came in relief of Carson Palmer in Cincinnati. Now probably the starter in Detroit. Town going from Arizona, the man that threw the bomb at the end of the season. And then to beat for Arizona to beat Minnesota that year. He's on the Cleveland, and for Culpepper, the the Minnesota Vikings got a 2nd-round pick. So that's the extra pick that they have in this round. The Vikings just took a center, Ryan Cook from New Mexico, a former walk-on, nicknamed the Hitman, which is pretty good if you're a center, Mel.
He's a huge kid, Chris. He's 6'6.5". He's 325 pounds. Now, he tested out okay strength-wise. I didn't think he played as strong as he tests. I thought some of those defensive tackles in the NFL could push him around a bit. And ultimately, I just wondered athletically, firing out the middle linebacker, can he do the things necessary to be successful in the NFL as a starting center? Thought that maybe offensive tackle could be a possibility for him. So I think you look at a guy like Ryan Cook, maybe he has dual versatility, but as a center, I think he still needs a little work. But yeah, you're talking about a guy I thought early 2nd round. They take him in the 2nd. They don't take a quarterback. Could have had Brody Coyle. So the heir apparent to Brad Johnson. Who could it be? You still have Charlie Whitehurst. You still have Tavares Jackson on the board from Alabama State. So a little surprising with one of these 2 2nd-round picks, Chris, that they did not take a quarterback.
They do have 2 third, right? A couple more coming up. We'll see. Before that, San Diego got exactly who they wanted in the 2nd round. It was either a name that they were toying with, although they didn't want to necessarily go there in the 1st round, and that would be tackle Marcus McNeil from Auburn. So the Chargers, we heard Sean Merriman earlier, who was 1st-round pick last year, say, hey, we need DB help. We need offensive line help. You also heard me say it. T1 a taxi. And now they've done both, Mel.
And you look at Marcus McNeil. I mean, here's a kid that back in the beginning of the year you would have thought would have been an early to mid-1st round. There was some talk that maybe Tampa Bay or San Diego in the 1st round would look at Marcus McNeil. I thought that would have been way too high. But here in round 2, let's see if he can develop that talent. He's a skilled kid from a physical standpoint. I mean, he has ability. There's no question about that. But he plays high, waist bender, not a knee bender. That will cause problems at the pro level. Applying that power, the quickness off the edge could give him trouble. Will he apply that power at right tackle in the NFL? There's also that injury issue with a guy like Marcus McNeil remaining durable at the pro level. But when you're talking about a guy that looked like a top 10 to 15 pick in the 1st round, even today I heard this morning, maybe a couple teams in the late 1st round could take him. For San Diego, who needs an heir apparent to Roman Obenmort, at this point in the draft, you really can't argue with it.
Now, the thing about, you mentioned the physical Marcus McNeil. I think the reason he went a little bit lower back injury, he had some stenosis in the cervical, but the big thing was the lower back people were concerned about. But this is a value pick right here.
Then the Green Bay Packers with another second-round pick that they have. Just picked wide receiver from Western Michigan, Greg Jennings. So in this round, hey, the Green Bay Packers getting tackle and wide receiver, which would help their returning quarterback, some guy that wears number 4.
It's a kid you're talking about is one of my major college sleepers in this draft. In the Mid-American Conference did a heck of a job for Western Michigan going to the Green Bay Packers. He will have a chance to play and play well early on in his career and need to be able to produce results for a team that has problems at that wide receiver position. You look at a kid like Greg Jennings, productive, good hands, quick as well as has deep speed, can stretch it vertically, tough. I know if this was a kid in this draft with not many wide receivers emerging, could have been ranked as your 4th wide receiver on the board. Not think anybody could have argued with it. This is a nice pick. We had heard that there were teams like Kansas City and Denver. There were some teams that had an interest in this kid. And all of a sudden, here's Green Bay needing help at wide receiver, getting a good football player in round 2.
Well, and so the Green Bay Packers, don't forget they traded Javon Walker today to the Denver Broncos. So that saga has ended. And really, let's talk about what just happened. Oh, by the way, this week, Brett Favre is playing football for the Green Bay Packers, and nobody really knew. Although, man, Mort, I know you've been close to the situation. The longer it lasted, he had a feeling, well, there would be more of a chance. I personally didn't even. I think at the end of the year, that was he was planning to retire, but the months came, the competitive juices flew, and so what kind of season do we think Brett Favre can have with the Green Bay Packers? And were you surprised that he decided, I'm back?
No, the longer time went on, and Brett was starting to say, I want to play football. The desire is there. He just wanted to know that the Green Bay Packers were going to be playoff competitive. On paper, you look at the Packers, you wouldn't say they are, but what the Packers believe they have is that they kept a lot of their unrestricted free agents, maybe not named players. They got Amon Green back and Najee Davenport back at wide receiver. Obviously they got A.J. Hawk today to help that defense. They got Charles Woodson to help that defense. But, to losing Javon Walker, I know that Jennings is a guy that a lot of people like, but as Brett said it a couple of weeks ago, there's no rookie that really is going to come in and have an impact right now. So I think that this is still a borderline team in terms of can they be playoff.
But the receivers can help you, and he fits in the mold of those receivers in Green Bay, the Antonio Freemans and those type guys that were not real big superstars that can come in and still help. But I'm questioning how great Brett Favre can be this year after taking so much time just to decide if he's going to play.
If he wants to be, it'll be exciting.
Hard.
I don't know if they're a playoff team, but he'll have a better year than last year. I feel confident saying that. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the birth of a new breed of professional athlete. This is the new life, the new style, the way forward. Can you hear the future beckoning? A mogul in the making. His finesse and intelligence are the keys to his success. The ever smooth, the ever sophisticated. The Angela Williams, running back, Memphis. He laughs in the face of adversity. Completely unafraid to step up to the mic. A true rock star. Jay Cutler, quarterback, Vanderbilt. He pulls the strings, manipulating people as if they were but pawns. Tribute must be paid, or he will come to collect. The Breakershaw Ferguson, offensive tackle, Virginia. Follow me to witness the future as it continues to unfold.
We used to have a Notre Dame tight end.
Bavaro. Welcome back to Radio City Music Hall, and we have reached 7 hours of our continuing coverage for the latter part of the second round. Radio City Music Hall, built by the money of John D. Rockefeller and helped by impresario Roxy Rothafel way back in the 30s. This became just a glittering and classy venue, which it remains today, 3/4 of a century later. First round, 12 ACC players, which is a record. 7 defensive backs selected, which ties a record. 9 trades. It's been a Monty Hall second round. Let's make a deal. And we're reaching the latter stages of round number 2. Dallas just picked in the 53rd spot, and they have selected Anthony Fasano, who flourished in Charlie Weiss's offense last year with Notre Dame. And certainly with Notre Dame on TV and so popular, we got to see his work quite a bit last year, Mel.
Charlie Weiss, talk about his influence in that Notre Dame offense with Brady Quinn, who could end up being the #1 pick next year, quarterback, if he has a great year. And Charlie Weiss allowed Fasano to really emerge. Caught a lot of balls in this offense, 45 receptions, 12.4-yard average, and 2 touchdowns. You watch him here, number 88, an athletic kid at a 33.5 vertical. Runs pretty well as well. You're talking about 6'4", 260-pound kid. And Anthony Fasano, tough as well. I think the blocking is something you want to see on a more consistent basis. He's a tough, aggressive kid. He'll get after you, but game to game needs to pick that up. Mark Favaro, Anthony Fasano, Bill Parcells, more Charlie Weiss connection. Dallas needing another tight end in that mix with Jason Witten.
Yeah, Coach Parcells went into this draft hoping that he could get some help and have a tight end duo to go with Jason Witten, his most productive tight end on that.
So an Irish goes with a Carpenter, and those are the picks thus far for Bill Parcells here in round number 2. Next up, the Chiefs, followed by the Bengals, followed by the Ravens. The last third of round number 2 here at Radio City, New York.
Welcome back to the 2006 NFL Draft. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock as we roll through the second round. Guys, 10 new head coaches in the NFL. So much for the loyalty and respect factor, huh?
Absolutely.
Herman Edwards for you.
That's right.
Scott Linehan for you.
Yes.
Mike McCarthy for you. Trent, start with you. New coach. The change, is it good in Kansas City as well as the other 2 places?
Well, you know what? Our situation's a little bit different with Coach Vermeil deciding to retire as opposed to being forced out. It was a situation where when we were able to get Herman Edwards, he came in and he made a decision right away to tell us what he expected, what he wants out of every player, what he wants out of the system. He's very direct. He's not going to beat around the bush. There's no gray area with Herman Edwards. The people in New York know that. He came in right away and he told everybody what the expectations were. It's a black and white thing, and what direction and what expectations we have.
And I think with Coach Linehan and what happened with us in St. Louis last year with Coach Mars, I think this organization definitely wanted to go in a new direction. I think coming off this first minicamp that we had with Coach Linehan, a very winning attitude, new energy. I thought he did a real good job of calling in some of the vets and some of the younger players and speaking with us and asking us what type of concerns we had within the team. Is there anything that he needs to know? So right there, that tells me right now that this coach, Coach Linehan, has the initiative. He wants to know what's going on with the team. He has the understanding and trying to find out what it is that we need and what we need from him to help us get going in the right direction.
Regardless of popular opinion, Ted Thompson and our board decided we needed a change, and Mike McCarthy is a great fit. Former offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers coming to us. He's a great quarterback for us. Great quarterback as far as a head coach goes. He's leading things in. He's making sure that all the guys are fitting into the system the way they need to. He's bringing the right package. He's bringing a different offensive scheme for us, different coaching staff. It's going to be a good challenge for veterans like myself.
William, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the other advantage we have with Coach Edwards is the fact that he was a player.
Absolutely.
So he comes in right away. He already gets that respect because he's been on the field and he's played before. So from the veteran guys, they respect the fact that he's been on the field. So when he comes in and demands certain things, you know where he's coming from because he has that history.
Well, not only a player, but he's also been a head coach where Scott and Mike McCarthy have not been head coaches at the NFL level. So, Torrey, what's the biggest challenge that faces a new head coach that comes into an organization?
Well, I think right now, you know, he's trying to establish a relationship and a rapport with the players, and especially the older guys. For any new coach coming to this situation, you're going to be a little nervous, and you're going to anticipate, and you're going to be over anxious about certain things. So you try to get that rapport and respect from your veteran guys, and if you get that from them and they buy over and win over your philosophy, then it's easy to translate that to a lot of the younger players. And I think right now Coach Linehan is all ears. I think he's brought in a good staff with Hazard now running the defense. I think they're putting the people around him that's going to allow us to have a successful season this year, and it's going to allow him to be a successful winning coach in his first year.
The biggest challenge for Coach Edwards is the fact coming in, nobody wants us to change our offense, and he made it very clear from day one, his first press conference, we're not going to change the offense. We have lost offensive coordinator Al Saunders, went to Washington. Mike Solari is going to step up and be offensive coordinator. But he doesn't want to make any changes in offense, and that's a great move. We've got ourselves established on the offensive side of the ball.
defensive side of the ball. Gunther Cunningham stays on as defensive coordinator, but we replace that entire staff. So you've got to mesh all these guys together. And obviously, Coach Edwards being in New York, everybody from a public standpoint knows a lot more about him than some of these other coaches because of the media attention you get in New York. So he's got to come in, not only establish himself and what he wants to get done as a head coach, but he has an entire new staff that he's working with.
McCarthy is coming in with a blue-collar mentality. He's a former Pittsburgh guy, tells everybody about his steel, living near the steel yards and things like that. He wants everybody to be blue-collar. So the new change was this year, he's asking everybody to be in Green Bay working out throughout the year. Basically, everybody coming in on the same page. There's no superstars. He wants everybody in-house, working hard together, and developing the chemistry from the ground up. So that's been a beautiful change.
And for us in St. Louis, it's a comfortable environment. Still in St. Louis. It was something that Dick Vermeil created, was there when I first got there in '99. It was something that Coach Morris continued to keep there when he took over for Vermeil. And it's the same thing with Linehan. He's keeping a very comfortable environment. And what I mean by that is guys are wanting and excited now about coming to work. And I think that's what it's all about. And another thing I think is very interesting with the addition of Jim Hassel, who's been a head coach before, will also play a major role in Coach Linehan and his progression as a head coach.
Well, Coach Vermeil gets to enjoy retirement while your ex-coach Mike Marks is in Detroit and your ex, Mike Sherman, is in Houston. Everybody has a challenge, and it's not easy being a head coach of the National Football League, trying to fix some situations. The 2006 NFL Draft continues right here on ESPN.
ESPN's coverage of the NFL Draft is brought to you by Under Armour. Click Clack. Singular, raising the bar. And Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of Super Bowl 41.
Getting to be evening now in the city that never sleeps. We go up here on ESPN till 8 when we move our draft coverage to ESPN2. John Saunders and company take over as NBA playoff action. The Pistons take on the Milwaukee Bucks. The Pistons won the first two games there at 10:30 Eastern. Game 4 between the LA Clippers and the Denver Nuggets, with the Clippers up 2-1, both available on ESPN HD. NBA playoffs at ESPN and ABC. It's on, and the draft continues to be on here from Radio City Music Hall in New York. And again, we move over to ESPN2 at the top of the hour. Herm Edwards is the new coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. It cost them a 4th-round pick, which the Jets will get to exercise tomorrow. He got reunited with the guy who first drafted him. That was Carl Peterson, who was running the Philadelphia Eagles with Dick Vermeil back in the late 70s. They consummated the deal. Herm was a free agent back in '77, and they had a dinner at Bookbinders in Philadelphia. Well, when they did this deal, Carl is now president, GM, of course, of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now he's head coach of the Chiefs, and it cost him a 4th-round pick. They did the deal at Bookbinders as well. Same place to eat, and Herm said, look, I was a free agent once. Now I'm all the way up to a 4th-round pick from '77 to '06. So he's reunited with a guy that he knows very well. And Herm Edwards used to making the playoffs, took the Jets to the playoffs more often than not, and was on the Schottenheimer staff for many of the playoff years in Kansas City. Chiefs just picked, and they picked Bernard Pollard, safety from Purdue, who's a very good special teams player, Mel.
Oh, he's a tough kid. He's got linebacker size, but 6'1.5", 225 pounds, can lower the boom. No question about that. Tough kid, aggressive football player. 96 tackles as a junior, led the Boilermakers with 92 this past season. They had a career high 3 interceptions. Now, coverage ability is a concern with Pollard at the next level in the National Football League. But here's a guy I thought there's some negativity. When I talked to some people in the NFL that said, he could maybe drop into the early 2nd day. At one point, he looked like maybe a 1 or a 2. I didn't think he'd go here. I thought he would go more 3rd or 4th round. But obviously, Carl Peterson, Herm Edwards saw something they like here in Bernard Pollard. They still have a cornerback need. Ashton Yabodi, Richard Marshall were on the board. You look at a guy like Devin Hester, a versatile kid out of Miami, say pass on the corner to take the safety.
Can he tackle?
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you saw the name again, if you're tuning in later, hey, look, a lot of the first-round picks and where the quarterbacks went and where Reggie Bush went, intriguing. But Tamba Hali from Penn State, that story that escaped Liberia that we had on a little earlier, that may be one of the most intriguing first-round picks that we've had in a long, long time.
Can he tackle?
Yes, he can tackle. You see the ball? Go get the ball. He does that. Plus, he played for Joe Paterno.
All right, Joe Pop.
From Penn State. But where did Joe go to college? From? Brown University.
Brown University.
Thank you very much. Cincinnati coming up next. Baltimore after that as the second round continues. Here, Joe Paterno. We'll be back.
I'm Reggie Bush.
I am Mario Williams.
I'm Vince Young.
I am the Brickashaw Ferguson.